So we're going to do a quick little recap on how to remove variables from the healing equation that is your life. So when it comes to variables, you have got to consider all variables when it comes to facilitating change in human physiology, human tissues, and the overall well-being of a human life. So the way that I do medicine is I like it to be very practical in the commitment in the beginning, before you go and start chasing after the more elusive, less tangible components of being a human, which are mind, belief, placebo effect, all of those other different factors that are just as real as these others, but again, more elusive, harder to quote unquote control, if you will. So when it comes to the human body, you have to take into consideration all of those things. So the reason I have done the rules, right, those master classes on things like nutrition, digestion, absorption, which we cover in the nutrition class, light, sleep, and then the energy master classes, because those are very practical components that when incorporated into your life will remove variables. They on their own will have an outcome that is completely separate from any belief, any thinking pattern, any relationship, any trauma, any of those other things, and they work no matter what. So the easiest way to think about it, I cover this in the nutrition class, is no matter how you're thinking, whiskey is still going to have the effect that whiskey has in your physical body. And that's just as true when it comes to sleep, light, energy, and all types of rules when it comes to nutrition. It's just as straightforward as that. When you add on the mind, when you add on belief, that's when it starts getting a little bit more complicated. That's why everyone's not just healing with a standard protocol or a basic restrictive diet, right? So when it comes to those things, if you have a lot to heal, you should be following those rules more consistently, more intently. There should be no days off. And when you do that, you start getting rid of a lot of symptoms that only were related to those factors. And so in the grand scheme of things, in that formula that is your total life, that is creating the health of your tissues, it's going to start removing variables. And the more consistent you are with those things, like how I have my patients do it, is there are no days off. You are all in, you are committed until you get everything that you want at the end. It's not we don't believe in cheat days. That doesn't even make any sense, right? Do you have a cheat day on your thyroid hormones? Do you have a cheat day on your cardiovascular medications? That doesn't make any sense. So same thing when it comes to your life, right? When you're using this as medicine, you've got to use it to the same degree and the same intensity that you use the other. So with that being said, you commit to those things, and the more committed you are to them, the quicker they get rid of all of that noise, let the dust settle. Then what you're left with are all of those other variables. That's why I love it. It makes it so much more simple, because you're not just chasing random things, because there are so many different things that could create maldigestion, low stomach acid. There's so many things that could create gas and bloating. There's so many things. Some of them are mental, belief, environmental, diet. There's so many variables. So if you're just jumping around, spot checking all of these different modalities, all these different practitioners, all these different therapeutic interventions, you're just going to be scattered forever. A little change here, a little change here, back to it here, no change here, nothing's really changing. And then you're just going to stop believing in the power of your body. You're going to be saying all these wonderful things. Your life is your medicine. You're the one that heals you. Your body's always healing. Your symptoms are your healing, but you're going to believe it less and less and less and less. So put in the work, dedicate where it makes sense, just like how whiskey's going to have an effect no matter how you're thinking. So will all of those other rules that we cover, right? They're just as real as gravity, even if you don't believe in them. If you want to use it and abide by them and work with them, they work even better. So put those into your life, especially if you have a lot to heal. Then with consistency, the dust is going to settle, and then you're going to get that one-to-one of, this is my relationship. This is my thoughts. These are my habits. This is this food. This is, then you get that clear one-to-one. But most people are nowhere near the one-to-one interpretation or translation of their body, because there are so many other things contributing to that same symptom, right? So if you have 5 variables and all of them cause, gas and bloating, and you're just going to spot check and jump around on all 5, you're not ever going to get the results. And that's what medicine looks like now. So if you've done the master classes, keep all of that incorporated consistently. let the dust settle, and then you get that one-to-one with everything else, all the other factors, all the other work, and we'll get to mind and all of that. I promise you those are coming. But stay committed in the stuff that matters. Your body works how it works, even if you are being a jerk one day, or you're happy one day, or you're grateful one day, or you're an absolute asshole one day. Your body still has some very physiological basics, input, output. 3 shots of whiskey is going to do what 3 shots of whiskey does, right? And it's different in every human body. That's why you get to the complexity. So just real quick, wrap up. Keep those rules, keep the basics, the practicality in your life, especially if you're needing to change a lot. Then you get what everyone is teaching and preaching, that true mirror reflection of, okay, well, if all of those variables have been eliminated, what's left? Then you get into all that other work. If you're doing all of that other work and you're still, again, if you're drinking all of this whiskey, that's like the explanation of the day. I don't even know that much about whiskey. Anyways, but if you were just drinking liters and liters of whiskey, right, which would be an astronomical amount, you would get the effects of that. And then it really wouldn't matter too much, right? Could you still overcome it with a super powerful mind? Of course you could. But there's a better way to go about it. And so that's what I mean when I'm talking about the rules and the practicality, right? Poetry is woven in. We touch on it a little bit in all of those classes. And you'll get to play with it more once you use those things and truly understand what we're talking about. It's not a diet, it's you. It's not a protocol, it's you. It's how your body works in this world, and then everything else that you've experienced, how you experience, how you think,